everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Monster Mashup. Today I want to venture into a forbidden world, one which this show has not yet explored, and which is probably one of the most oversaturated topics on all of YouTube. Today, at risk of litigation for daring to say the word, let's talk about Pokémon. More specifically, the recently released, as of this recording, Pokémon trading card game Pocket app. This app squeezes in quick versions of the full trading card game battles with a heavy emphasis on card collecting. I'll be looking at a few different aspects of what it's like on release. Call it a review if you like, with hints of a guide, but ultimately I want you to be able to get an idea if this app is for you or not. Prepare the foil Charizard you stole from your cousin when you were in preschool, and let's see how it stacks up. For starters, there's a big emphasis on collecting. The very first screen when you log into the game shows you packs you can open. A selling point of the app is that you get several free packs each day. In addition to packs, there are other ways to get cards, like the Wonder Pick system, which allows you to peruse packs other players opened and claim one random card from them as well. Every time you open a pack, you'll receive some currency which you can use to trade for specific singles, which is great for filling out cards you might not have a playset of or that you want to collect. I'm not going to bother using the names of the various kinds of in-game currency because there are at least 10 different kinds, most of which only apply to one screen from what I can tell. This is pretty standard fare for mobile games, but this one's giving me Pokemon Unite vibes in terms of how many there are. Extra cards can be broken down to make your existing copies more shiny, which is a fun take on the recycling system some digital card games have, and really shows how much the collecting is the focus here. The gallery views have tons of attention to detail. There's even an option where you can take your cards and rotate them in 3D as though you're physically touching a card, which again shows the emphasis on collecting. It's kind of a cool feature. There are missions that get you more of the different kinds of currency with some kind of battle pass system as well. The missions range from anywhere to opening packs, to accomplishing certain feats with battles, winning solo battles or things of that nature. If you get certain key cards, you can unlock rental decks. So basically, if you get, say, a fancy Charizard, you might unlock a rental deck that features that card. So it's kind of a cool plus. Like most mobile card games, it's weighted pretty heavily at the beginning where you get lots of free stuff. Overall, the system looks like it might be pretty generous. Microtransactions seem like they're either aesthetics or they can enhance your ability to get cards quicker, but it looks like you get plenty as you go anyway if you know what you're doing. The audio and the visuals are about what you'd expect from something like this. The music is inoffensive, it's good background noise. I don't think any of the songs are going to get stuck in my head anytime soon. They do what they need to do. As far as the visuals, there's basic animation on the menus. If there's loading things, you'll get a little swirl. It looks fine. I do have some minor complaints in terms of the transitions between actions or screens. Some of them, there's a skip button that just doesn't seem to skip very well. It's more of a speed up button, so you still have to sit through everything. Let's talk about the battles. So you'll notice, if you're familiar with the regular Pokemon trading card game, the board's a lot smaller. There's only 3 spaces on the bench. I'm going to try my best not to just compare it one-to-one and to judge the game on its own merits, especially for people who may have just collected the cards or just seen them and not actually played the game. But basically, when you play the game, you'll have one active Pokemon. That's the one that's out there fighting, but it's also the one that can get hit. Then you'll have up to 3 bench Pokemon. Those are Pokemon waiting to be swapped in. The goal is to get 3 points, and the way you get points is by defeating opponents' Pokemon. So if it's just a regular one, you beat it, you get 1 point. There are some Pokemon, they're called Pokemon EX, that are big, and when you defeat them, they're worth 2 points. So they're really powerful, but the trade-off is that if they do get beaten, then you lose the game quicker. Your deck is composed of 20 cards. You can only have up to 2 cards with the same name. So there might be 3 different kinds of Pikachus, for example, but you can only pick 2 copies of cards named Pikachu to put into your deck. In addition to Pokemon cards, there are trainer cards. Trainer cards come in a couple varieties. There's item cards and supporter cards. You can only play one supporter card a turn. These are usually really powerful effects, that's why they limit you. So you want to definitely have some in your deck, but you don't want to have too many or else you'll have a bunch of cards you can't play. Item cards, you can use as many as you want, but they're a little bit weaker effects. Now, Pokemon cards have a few different attributes. There's the name, their hit points, which is how many hits they can take before they get KO'd. There's their attacks, and their attacks you can see a damage number on the right side. On the left side, you see how much energy they require to be able to do that attack, and then sometimes the attack will have some different effects written underneath it. In addition to that, they'll have a weakness, which if a Pokemon of that type attacks them, they'll take some extra damage, and there's a retreat cost. You can retreat your active Pokemon for one of your bench Pokemon, but you have to discard that many energy. The symbols themselves are pretty straightforward. The only one that might be tricky is the white symbol with the star in it is a generic symbol. It's called colorless. So you can use any color of energy to meet that requirement. Every turn, you generate an energy that you can attach to one of your Pokemon. You only get one a turn, and you can only attach one a turn unless you have effects that say otherwise. So it's really, really important to put it in the right spot. If you have cards that require different kinds of energy, say you've mixed together several different elements in your deck, then it seems like it randomly generates which one pops up. This can be unfortunate because even if you only have 2 different elements in your deck, you might get the wrong kind of energy multiple turns in a row. From a deck construction standpoint, you want to make sure that you have some cards that just have generic requirements to sort of bridge the gap here. Or you can always just run one element, but then you run the risk of running into your weakness, and all of your cards would be weak to the same thing. For the battles themselves, you'll flip a coin at the beginning, and you'll figure out if you're going first or second. Neither player can evolve on their first turn, and in general, when you put a Pokemon out, they have what they call basic Pokemon. Then you can play them directly to the bench, but they can't evolve that turn unless something else says otherwise. Your evolution Pokemon, you need to play directly on top of the correct basic Pokemon, so you want to make sure that you have a good enough balance of basic and evolutions and trainers, because if you run out of Pokemon on your board, then you lose the game instantly. With the deck only being 20 cards, sometimes you're going to deck out. Normally you'd lose the game here, but they don't have a game loss condition for that. Instead, you just can't draw more cards, so you have to work with whatever you have left. In addition to attacks doing damage, they have some different abilities and status effects. So status effects are things like poison or paralyze or sleep. Now you can get rid of status effects by switching them to the back, retreating them, or by an effect if it happens, because Pokemon on the bench don't suffer from status effects. Or you can evolve a basic Pokemon. So if you have a Slowpoke that is poisoned and you evolve it into Slowbro, it won't be poisoned anymore. On release, the game seems to have a healthy balance of different kinds of strategies you can use, from pumping up one big one like a Dragonite, to having a bunch of faster, smaller ones that maybe you can get the jump and get your damage in early. It doesn't seem particularly skewed from my few hours of playing, but here's a few tips. Normally you only get 1 energy a turn. If you have an attack or an ability that allows you to get more than 1 energy a turn, that's inherently going to be really good. Basically anything that takes a limited resource and gives you extra of it, and the opponent doesn't get that, is going to give you an advantage. It's going to get you ahead. That also relates to hand size and card draw. If you never play any cards that say draw a card, then you're only getting your basic draw each turn, and if your opponent does, they have more options than you. Now there's cards like the trainer card red card that forces the opponent to shuffle their hand into their deck then just draw 3. You can punish somebody who leans too heavily into it Nonetheless, it's still really important to maintain a hand size so you actually have stuff to play. As an example, if you get stuck with only one basic Pokemon and it gets knocked out, then you just lose the game right away. Like, you need to be able to avoid that kind of thing. Knowing when to switch out or retreat is really, really important. Prioritizing Pokemon that work well together is also going to be significant. You can throw your favorites, in a stack of cards, but they might not work as well together as ones that are more designed to. In addition to attacks, some Pokemon will have Pokemon abilities. These are usually really good. They give you an extra action in addition to being able to declare an attack or having to spend like a trainer card from your hand to do something. Often you can do these things every turn. As an example, Weezing can poison the opponent's active Pokemon just arbitrarily for free once a turn. So if you had a Weezing that was really beat up, you could poison their Pokemon, then retreat it, and attack with something else, and it's going to take extra damage because of the poison. Overall, battles are fairly quick. Only having to get to 3 victory points is really generous. So far, I've found the game to be enjoyable. I have no doubt that they have tons of cards they can pull from, and we'll see near constant updates. I'm curious to see the direction it'll head in the future. For now, if you want to have something you can play on your breaks, at work or school or whatever, it's not bad for that. I mean, you can play with friends. There's no trading features yet, but there's already buttons for them, and it says coming soon, so. In summary, the game's really visually appealing. It's nice presentation overall. I like the shortened battles. I think sometimes you might feel like you only get to play 1 or 2 of your Pokemon, and I feel like you'll probably see certain strategies pop up that are just way stronger than others. But overall, I've seen a variety of strategies so far, so hopefully it stays that way. I think if you're looking for a really in-depth strategic experience, you might come up a little bit short for this one, but it's not really meant for that. It's also nice to have a game that more casual and more competitive players can sit down and enjoy together too. If you enjoyed this kind of content, or VPET stuff in particular, then feel free to subscribe if you are not. Liking, commenting, all that good stuff helps. And thanks for watching.